Good evening and welcome to MarshStream, your solo performance broadcasting platform. I'm Kristen Scheel for The Marsh, and I'd like to thank you for joining us for Solo Arts Heal. The Marsh brings you free performances nearly every night of the week. We hope you'll support our artists and live theater by contributing to our Marsh tip jar, which will be linked to the chat throughout the evening. And we hope you'll check out the growing library of archived performances on our website at themarsh.org and on our YouTube channel, The MarshStream. Now, I'd like to turn the evening over to Stephanie Wiseman, your host for tonight's Solo Arts Heal.
Thank you, Kristen. Hello. Welcome to Solo Arts Heal. Thank you for joining us. I'm Stephanie Wiseman. As Kristen said, I'm the artistic director and founder of The Marsh. Solo Arts Heal is where performers present real-life empowering stories, a theater of resilience that celebrates overcoming mental and physical life challenges. And it offers hope and inspiration. MarshStream's Solo Arts Heal program includes excerpts, talkbacks, and a Q&A providing education and advocacy that supports communities through outreach and the healing power of the arts. Tonight on Solo Arts Heal, our special guest is Hope Singsen. Hope is a writer and performer, activist, and the founding artistic director and host of the Heal Me Too Festival and video podcast. Hope has performed in numerous films and TV shows as well as on the national stage. As a writer, she researches the way creativity can spark individual and cultural change. This research grew through her practice in creating the solo play with music, Skin, directed by Jessie D. Hill. We suggest that you bump up your sound volume a few clips for the best experience. Now, welcome Hope and let the performance begin.
Imagine you are born to a family that loves and protects you. Awesome. Then shit happens and it makes your heart a fist. That sucks because you can't live, right? Or give yourself when your heart's a fist. If you really imagine it, you might just hear a voice in the back of your head like, oh, no, it's not that bad. I mean, at worst, it's more like blah, 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 blah. And then you grow up. One day you go to graduate school to get your PhD. Hooray! Boo-hoo. 8 years later, you still haven't finished. Because for your dissertation, you just had to pick a not so simple topic. The modernist masterpiece novel, To the Lighthouse by the inspiring, the impossible Virginia Woolf. By some miracle, you know you are the soul twin of the novel's main character, Lily, so you ignore every other character in the book, especially the characters of Mr. and Mrs. Ramsay, who, have each of you actually read To the Lighthouse? No, it's fine. I can be your To the Lighthouse Cliff Notes. Here is a thumbnail of the novel's main plot. A huge family, the Ramsays and all their Victorian friends, go to a summer house. Our favorite character, Lily, tries to paint the family's portrait, but everyone distracts her. Everybody has dinner. Then they all go away. And the house stands empty for 10 years. While far off, people marry, World War I happens, people die. Then the rest come back and sail off to the lighthouse they've always talked about while Lily finishes the painting. That's the whole plot. It's a beautiful book. The first time I bought a copy, the cashier made a curious face. I said, "Is it a good book?" She said, "Sure, if you like torture." Speaking of torture, here's my dissertation. because yeah, this story is about me in graduate school trying to get free from and blah. Hi, my name is Marae. Are you all with me? Do you see me? If I can, I'll give you everything. Everything I am is all I have to give. Are you still with me? If not, it'll make sense later. For now, I have to tell you one more thing or nothing will make sense. When you write a dissertation, you talk to yourself a lot, and there is nothing like a friend who really listens to you. The recorder app on this little thing was so alive to me in grad school. It was like having a room full of people hang on my every word. That came in handy. After days and weeks of writing by myself, I sometimes pictured all my listeners down to the last detail with their, I don't know, really bold print dresses and handlebar mustaches. Oh, what a cute calico. Till I saw my audience so clearly, all it took was the tap of a button to never be alone. I am really glad you are here. Hold on. You gotta check out how great that is. I am really glad you are here. No, I'm really glad you are here. Okay, that's self-involved. We don't have time for that. We have to travel back in time, over 10 years to my very last year in graduate school when I was over-caffeinated, overstimulated, underslept, and practically lived at my dedicated research desk at my favorite cafe. It was dissertation due day minus 65. Note for dissertation. Lily has a hard time getting down to work. The second she lays eyes on the Ramsays to paint them, she is so overwhelmed with longing for what they have. She says so on page 46. Yeah. Directly when looked up and saw them, what she called, quote, being in love flooded them. They became part of that unreal but exciting universe, seen through the eyes of love. The sky stuck to them. The birds sang through them. End quote. Lily, the birds sang through them. Yeah, no wonder she can't work. Note for journal, 10 a.m. I can't stop thinking about Georgia. Oh, but I haven't told you about Georgia. I met Georgia at a Virginia Woolf conference. She was there to present an interpretive dance about To the Lighthouse. For the Woolf crowd, a little halftime entertainment. Georgia's interpretation of Lily was adorably awkward, absurd, totally my type. I asked her over to check out my dissertation, the gayest pickup in history. But on dissertation due day minus 65, I was pretty sure it worked. Note for journal, 10 a.m. I can't stop thinking about Georgia. Last night at the movies, our eyes met and I felt it in my crotch. Oh my God, that kiss on the corner of my mouth before we said goodnight. Her voice melts like spice. That's kind of like a poem. Your voice melts like spice. No idea what that means. And yet it's true. Oh, she blows her bangs out of her eyes like it's a word in the sentence. She choked on her paella when I asked her age. Oh, what else do you want to know? Her laugh is like music. Your voice smells like spice. Your laugh is like music. Yeah, okay, it's enough for now. I got to get back to work. 2:02. We talked about Lily for hours. I mean, of course, Georgia already knows even about the bit on page 46. Yeah, the sky stuck to them. The birds sang through them. A Virginia Woolf artist. She's like too perfect. Plus, her day job is building houses. Oh my God, what if she builds me a house? No, forget that. It's never going to happen. She's too sexy for me. 8:15, Marae, you have got to get hold of yourself. You don't know her yet. I tried to meditate. That went great. I kept finding new layers of fear. 1, trust, the biggie. 2, my heart could get squashed like a sour lemon. Not a lemon, that's too dramatic. Like a tomato. No, don't edit. That was number 3. I could open my mouth and be ignored, erased, smushed. Ugh. When will I grow up? 9:20. I was sure she'd call by now. I mean, that was flirting. I'm so curious about your dissertation and happening to tell me how she's breaking up with this woman. So she's not really single yet, but already dating me. What is that? They could reconcile. I have no time for that kind of drama. Check, please. I'm out. 10 p.m. Still no call. Echoes of your voice have fled. This quiet craters me. Craters. What am I, in high school? "10 p.m. note for dissertation. Lily is like a teenager who never learned to date. Some folks really cannot hold their own with love." 10:48 is officially getting too late to call after just 2 dates. How can she not call? For our first date, she showed up unannounced, ran up 15 flights of stairs for me. I had forgotten about her. The great thing about calling her at 10:58 is I said what I'm looking for and what I don't want, and she is virtually single. She wants to see me in 2 days. Everything's just fine. Everything's just fine. I already know you're mine. It's there every time you smile. I'm gonna marry you. Yes, it could be true. I just have to wait and wait and wait and wait and wait a little while. 3.7 weeks later, on dissertation due day -40, of course I'm dying to come to bed, Georgia, but first there's something you should know. If you put candles under your plants like that so they make shadows on the wall, I hope you're ready to deliver because I think I'm in heaven. Yeah, this is pretty much how I pictured heaven when I was 4 or 5. Well, because back then, before mom and dad got divorced and everything went to shit, we lived in France in a farmhouse. It's my favorite house ever, and it's surrounded by trees. Oh, plus my uncle came to visit, who was a priest, who I adored. He said God was in everything, and I remember looking at the trees. And then he kneeled down and put his hand on my chest. God is inside you. I said, uh-huh, God is a bone. No, I don't believe in God. I mean, maybe when I was that small. Oh, one time I think I did. I remember the day it happened. My dad got a picture of me when I didn't know he was there. The moment I felt God. Mm, no, I don't know where the picture is now. It wasn't a very good picture. Well, the picture is of um okay, that farmhouse we lived in was next to a dairy farm. So every night in summer, I fell asleep listening to the cows, like my lullaby. And one night I went out by myself, I thought, to tell the cows good night. And I went all the way to the split rail fence for the farm, and I could hear the cows out across the field. So I waited, just looking at the tall grasses bowing and bending in the wind and the trees glowing orange because the sun was low. I I felt held by the beauty of the world. Just like I feel with you. I got into bed and Georgia put her hand on my heart, and the locked box at the base of my throat started cracking open. I wanted to hold her hand there all night. Next morning, back at my apartment, journal 10 a.m. I just called Georgia to cancel for tonight, which she totally understood. I blamed the fact that we've only had 3 hours of sleep all week. This morning, before I was really awake, Georgia started caressing me all over, very sexy and tender. It tickled, and I started shaking. She noticed. She was looking in my eyes. I said it was chilly. She bought it. She pulled the covers up, but it took 10 minutes of spooning to stop. 2:02 p.m. We just have to spend less time in bed. I mean, it's too intense, you know. Other people actually go out. I'll say I need more time to write my dissertation, not just talk about it. I will ask if we can slow things down. No. What if she just backs off? "10 p.m. I would have been fine, this morning if the candle hadn't gone out in the middle of the night when we were having sex. I couldn't see her face. And yes, I know what she looks like, but there was a second when I thought it wasn't her. Who did I think she was? I will just keep a light on next time, and then that will never happen again. $10:04. $10:05. Note for dissertation. Woolf chooses not to have Lily face certain parts of her past, but Lily is still happy at the end of the book when she has her vision. Okay, Lily's quote skimpy, quote shriveled, quote dried up, presumably. We surmise that Lily never has sex. So then she never has to deal with the mess of the body or the awful parts of life. And anyway, Lily would rather be working all the time. Always by herself. "1:15 a.m. Murray, you have got to deal with your shit." But no one has to know. Tomorrow, I will start a brand new notebook for the awful parts of my past. I will write them out over and over until they leave me alone. Or God, here's a thought. Let me wake up normal. "3:15 a.m. I just dreamed about Georgia." Her hands make everything good. If she was here, I could get it over with in those sighs that just slip out. She'd make it beautiful if I told her those parts of my past. Yeah, if she's here looking at me, no way can I do that. Can I be that brave? Can I be that patient? Can I be that honest? I could try with you if you'd wait that long. If you think I'm worth it, if you think you'd like it, maybe you'd break through. I want you to. I'm dying to be near you. I would move heaven and earth, relearn what I knew at birth. If you think I can, if you can be patient, I will give you everything, everything I am.
Thank you, Hope. What a beautiful, beautiful, intimate performance and play. And what a beautiful voice you have.
Well, thank you. It's so lovely to be here. I wanted to just say thank you for inviting me and for this chance to share a little excerpt of the show. I've had, since I was living in the Bay Area in the 90s, I've always had it as a dream to bring skin to the marsh. So it's really nice, even though we're on different sides of the country, that I can do that right now.
It's the good things and the bad things of the pandemic. It really quite makes us has made us do a creative spurt and
Mhm.
develop a different arm, as it looks like you have too, because it looks like you've done a beautiful job adapting your performance to Zoom.
Thank you. It was really exciting and also daunting and a lot of work.
Yes. So this excerpt you just did is the beginning, basically, or
Well,
tell us.
it's actually yeah, it's like a custom assemblage. It's pieces from all different points in the play, really going past halfway. So the play itself is 75 minutes, the whole piece. And that's it's like the complete opening. And then we jump a bit, like there's some action that sets things up more around the dissertation and um, the introduction to who Georgia is happens differently in the full script. And so then we jump to the first journal sequence when, she's like losing her mind over how excited she is. Well, you saw it. And then, and that like descent over the course of the day. And then I jump a lot of stuff to just get to the companion piece, which is that next journal. No, I'm sorry, I'm forgetting my own thing. And then I go to what I call the bedroom scene. So we just sort of see the progression of the relationship with Georgia in this excerpt. But there's other past relationships. Well, the other like significant past relationship, first true love, comes into the full story, sort of giving more background of Moray's heart, her life, and then obviously, and there's classroom scenes where she's teaching the novel and kind of getting gobsmacked with things that correspond to her own journey. So it's like the two things keep prompting her along, the relationship and the dissertation.
And you wrote this piece as, you started writing it a long time before recently. So can you tell us a little bit about that journey and how this piece is about trauma and reclaiming your love and what happens to heal so you can do that after sexual violence, right?
Yeah. It's well, when I started the piece, it was really more about love. It was, in fact, I think an early title, I was like, Love and Other Disguises was what I called it when I was developing it as like a performance collage in the Bay Area in the 90s, and just innovating what did a performance collage, how did that work? I was bringing poems, monologues, and songs, mine, other people's, to these teeny tiny spaces around town in the Bay Area. And then moved to New York and put the whole thing on the shelf while I got busy in New York, like developing my craft as an actor more and networking and getting to know the industry and working and making a living and all those things. And occasionally would keep going back to it. It would keep pulling me back. And of course, all that time, I'm learning and growing and developing as an artist, developing as a human, having more relationships. And eventually really undertook to tear the whole original thing out by the seams and make it into a true play. So no longer, sort of assemblage of pieces, but something that really had suspense and an arc and drive and a payoff for the audience, a real experience that I could share. So it's definitely it's a piece addressing the journey to heal the effects of sexual violence. It's a piece that's very deeply informed by trauma informed, aware of not wanting to people will be triggered by whatever they are triggered by. It's not in my control to never trigger anybody, and I am dealing with sexual violence, so of course it does. I mean, there have been people who told me later that they had panic attacks while watching, but they stuck around, and actually by the end came to feel much more safe and much more healed, actually. So, and I had a friend of mine who had a really sustained panic attack, kept coming back to see the show because it helped her through that journey. So
Did she keep having panic attacks each time she came?
no, I don't think so. I don't know if she ever had another one. She came to an early developmental presentation, and then the piece had evolved by the time she came back. So what she told me is that she felt like she was asked to sit for too long in difficult material, which of course is a balance between perhaps the piece was asking that, or perhaps it was too long for her. It's really, it's really hard to know. But by the time she saw it again, we both were in a different place, the piece, and maybe she was in a different place. I'm not sure. But I know that she told me that she wanted to see it. I think she saw it 3 or 4 times because of the way that it was really helping.
Did people talk at all about the process of how it helped them? Or do you have an understanding of it?
I have, it would be theories. I have a lot of feelings and theories about it. I actually, this might be a good time to put in the chat the link to a talk that I gave at an academic conference about the way live arts can impact an audience. It was specifically about, looking at skin, and it goes into a lot of detail about the various elements in the play that are, I wouldn't say intentionally, it's not like I, was like pulling the strings exactly, but because of knowing what it's like for myself, I created a piece that it actually enacts a therapeutic technique called pendulating, where you approach traumatic material, but you don't get to the point where it's overwhelming. So you approach it, and then you retreat, or you go to a safer area. And really the piece is alternating between, more and more revealing honesty about the event that, in the story and in my life, and the impacts, the barriers, the pain, the suffering of having intimacy blocked, and having one's access to one's heart, interfered with or harmed. And then the experience of opening in love and in trust, and reference points, as I said, to like past significant love relationships that were opening and healing. And the use of music is already automatically very, especially if it's music like mine, very soothing and comforting, and it puts us in our bodies. So even just having the sound waves coming to you in the audience, there's a lullaby aspect. There's actually a little bit of a lullaby in the show. There's a lullaby aspect to some of them. And so these things, where it's like the discomfort and then the comfort, alternating safety and danger, it's actually a process that builds resilience, because every time that we get distressed and restore calm, our brain is developing neural fibers that are called dendrites, and like we're actually increasing our capacity to self-regulate, to calm ourselves. So I think that the play, certainly for me, and I think for the audience, is a gym, where we're kind of and it doesn't necessarily have to be sexual violence that one has experienced that could make your heart a fist, so I think the story of gradually opening an intimacy, learning the strength of vulnerability, learning the necessity of not disappearing into shame, and the opportunity, that opens up when you can tolerate more and more of the feelings that you're having, to travel through the shame to the other side, and to actually regain contact and intimacy. Anyway, that's what the story is about. So I think all of those things contribute.
And that's interesting. You use the word pendulating. How would you spell that?
Like pendulum, pendulating. I read about it in the masterwork, The Body Keeps the Score. I think that I always hesitate to know if I'm saying his name right. I think it's Bessel van der Kolk, is a trauma researcher, therapist, body worker extraordinaire. And I believe that was where I read about pendulation.
And you feel like your play kind of pendulates. You go in, you go out, you go in, you go out. And by pendulating, you're saying, and he's saying, it sounds like that helps you to heal and get through things.
Yeah, it's the same. It's the same principle. Is probably a later evolution of an idea from operant conditioning, which we use with animal training. I know you have dogs. I've had dogs, so I've had to train a fearful dog. And the trainer explained to me that you want to stay sub threshold of getting too riled up. So you only ask that we go like toward the thing that's dangerous, and that in itself is rewarded. And then the reward is the positive reinforcement. So is like the backing away from it. You don't have to stay there indefinitely. So the more that you like creep toward it and then get to go away from it, and also have some choice when it's you're talking about therapy or training, but you're reassuring yourself that it's okay to go in there, and you're going to be able to come back out. It's not going to swallow you whole.
Yeah, and that's so interesting because we talked a little bit about that. What a great adaptation you did for the Zoom box, the Zoom
Mhm.
black box, as I call it. And did when you were thinking the play is there, and then you're acting, not to stay too much on this pendulating, but have you thought about how that has worked into how you're doing the Zoom and your camera work? And I think perhaps this has less sound cues, I see from some
Oh
notes,
no, yeah.
than what you had, and maybe less props. I mean, I don't, it's maybe perhaps
Correct.
you had to really, go down with what you were doing in Zoom versus on the stage.
Right. Yeah, I had not thought about the adaptation in terms of this excerpt isn't getting into any of the really, just towards the end we start getting into some of the material that's charged, but it's not the character is resisting disclosing, so it's not too much. But that's an example of like an approach to it. Okay, we've intimated that there's something here. You're able to guess that there's something here, and what sort of something, but not exactly what. So that already is raising, spidey sense for a survivor in the audience, surely, and for everybody. But no, in terms of the use of the camera and on Zoom, I wasn't really thinking about it in that sense. I think it was mostly something I was focused on in terms of trying to tell the story of those time lapses. That's very tricky. I use sound cues for that. We actually have a TikTok sound in the fully embodied stage presentation. And there's sound cues throughout. Like there's sound cues all through that opening for like, when do you go to grad school? Do 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 do. Bah, bah, sad trombone. 8 years later, you still haven't finished. That kind of thing.
But
And it,
how does it make you feel to have less sound? Do you feel closer to your audience? Do you feel farther away from your audience? How is that experience for you to strip it down?
yeah, it is kind of nice in the sense that there's less pulling. There's tons pulling me out in terms of I'm the camera operator. You know what I mean? Like that was why it took a lot of work to get into muscle memory. Like here's how I move the laptop and adjust the top so that I've got the right framing for when I sit in the chair, and my head's not going to be cut off or whatever, or I'm like not too tiny in the frame. But yeah, it's like you can more seamlessly just go through the experience without having the interplay, with the cues. But I work very, very, very closely I have a stage manager who's worked with me for a few years now, and really like her cues are sometimes like, when I feel that thing, you should fire the cue, because we've been together so long that she sort of knows. I mean, that's a joke because it's not literally her cue, but like if my shoulders rise, that's the cue. And so I just have the experience, and the sound happens because of the experience. The sound is actually an expressionistic dimension of my inner life. That's our understanding of what the sound cues are. So that's in partly so because I wanted to be able to really just immerse myself in the experience of doing the show.
So this play, I think there's some intention there to present a play that will support an audience's healing. Would you like to talk a little bit about that and how and what and whatever?
For sure. Yeah. I mean, so, as I mentioned in writing it, I think I was aware of what was right for me, and it also is always something I've had the audience in mind, like wanting to not just to share the story. Really from the beginning, it was having had a very healing experience in a love relationship that Georgia is based on. I really wanted to share that story with other survivors because honestly, there was a friend of ours who said, like, we very good friend of my partner at the time, who was like, who also is a survivor, was like, how are you all like having sex like that, or how are you doing this, and I was like, oh wow, that's really meaningful. If I could share some of that journey, could it be, of help to others? But the show itself, when I perform it, I've started to always pair it with like an after session where we do some piece of music therapy or movement therapy, or have an advocate, come and we do a talk back, and I might lead a little, vocal practice as therapy, and it's something I am really interested in and learning about. As I know you mentioned in my bio, I then went and actually founded the #HealMeToo Festival in 2019 to have an even broader and more intersectional happening, where my show was presented, but it was 190 artists and 30 events in 19 days, workshops, panels, podcasts, performances, puppets, dance, musicals, everything, all mishmashed together for almost 3 weeks. And that was where I started learning more and more about art therapy and wanted to start incorporating that in, so that the audience's feelings and experience was part of it. Like, here's a space where we can keep journeying together. This is actually the framing that I got from a vocal practice therapist, Stephanie Rooker, who came and was part of my most recent little performance run, who said, this is a space where we can continue the journey just another step or two. And what the audience feels is part of what it's about. And I understood from people in the audience, that it was a really nice grounding, so that if people had been stirred up, as I said earlier, like every time we come back to our being present in our bodies, feeling a little more safe and able to be present, then we actually build our resilience.
So did you want to do one of those exercises?
Let's do that. I would love to. And I have to caveat, this is actually borrowing also from Stephanie. I'm still learning this practice myself, but will you join me, Stephanie?
I will, and everyone at home,
I would,
wherever
yes.
you are, can join. We'll only have my voice on. Sorry.
Me and you.
The two of us. I mean, I'm
Yeah.
the participant's voice. We already know
Mm-hmm.
you have a great voice.
Oh, this isn't about singing. This is real simple. Everybody, there's no right way to do it, and there's no wrong way, and it's real short too.
Okay.
So we can just start by having our feet on the floor, just a little grounding, and feel your sit bones underneath you and your thighs pressing on the seat. And just breathe in gentleness. And we can start with an exhale that sounds like the wind. We'll just do it 2 long exhales, like. And now we'll sigh with just a little voice, just a breathy, like. Do that twice. And then we'll bring more voice in, like a falling, however it comes out is good. Now we'll just put a little melody on that, and we'll do it 3 times. So Stephanie, the melody that I would like to use is So that's a tool so simple that I've used it sometimes on the subway, just quietly, that feeling the resonance in your body, in your face, and just bringing your attention to one thing, it's actually a meditative practice all by itself. It can help when things are intense. I actually, when we were enduring the horrific Kavanaugh trial, not trial, I'd like to call it a trial, the Kavanaugh hearings, I was so distressed, and working and going through life anyway, of course, and so distressed that I would just sing on my walk, after work to the subway. And it, after watching the news while working and things like that. And it really, really did demonstrate what a lifeline. Song just helps you feel good in your body. So if it's of use to anybody listening, I hope you'll give it a try sometime when you're distressed, and just try a simple melody like that. It might help.
And do you suggest you first do a little breathing first, like you did? So, so can you go through the steps so maybe people can
Sure
capture it in their brains?
Yes. So what we did was just be aware of our feet, or put both feet on the floor. If a seat is available to you, or standing. If you're sitting, just feeling your sit bones, getting on your sit bones underneath you, your thighs sitting in the chair, breathing for a moment gently. And then sort of a wind sound with an exhale, like, and then a very lightly vocal sigh, like, and then just adding more voice to that with a falling, and you repeat these. And then bringing that falling melody. Ah, that's all it can take.
Well, that's wonderful. Wonderful. And so, from this and your exploration of healing and how it gets represented and reflected in the play you write and do, and then it starts to get bigger and bigger, like a snowball gathering snow. And so, as you said, you've started some things like the Heal Me 2 festival, and now you have a podcast. You want
Yes.
to talk a little bit more about
Sure. Yes, I would.
podcasts?
Yes, the Heal Me 2 podcast is we've just almost wrapped up our third season, and it started. The first season was all continuing the conversation with artists from the festival. So, you know, a lot of people couldn't be in the West Village of New York City for those 3 weeks in spring. So we basically, I had excerpts of some performances that I shared as podcast extras. I had a number of the artists on as guests. I would often pair them with an advocate or therapist. I conducted the first 6, I think, podcast interviews at the festival live and recorded them. And so the first season was the festival. The second season was...
Just a question. So your season is
Sure.
how many podcasts? And is it a year? Is a season a year, or is it just
It's
a set?
whatever. It's whatever works. So they tend to be around 10. So the first season was, I think, 11, and actually the second season got truncated by COVID, but the third season will turn out to be 11 as well. The second season was around relationships and began with actually a live 2020 festival pop-up event for Valentine's Day, which is when we launched the second season, that I just adored the experience, and it became 2 episodes of season 2. We could go into that more, but for the sake of time, I guess I'll just say I was looking at all the aspects of relationships. So our relationship to our voice for survivors, you know, our relationship to our bodies, our relationship to sex and intimacy. The live show was in honor of Teen Dating Violence Awareness Month. So I had teen performers and partnered with the New York City Mayor's Office to end gender-based and sexual violence, and had these great music therapists on, and we did a whole like impromptu choral improvisation with the audience that was amazing. And so as I said, it got truncated because, you know, we could no longer tape in studio, and I actually left New York City and have been a COVID expat in New Hampshire ever since March. So, and the world, you know, went through upheaval. So then we refocused and did our third season specifically to embrace all of the traumas that survivors, our allies, and our communities have been going through. So whether that's racist violence, whether that's illness and loss through COVID, whether that's harassment, you know, due to xenophobia. I haven't done an episode on that, but I had a trainer who is part of an organization that does that. So anyway, there's just so many issues, and the constant ratcheting up all year of political crimes, violence, voter suppression. So season 3 was Heal Me 2 at home, and really had some wonderful, a couple of the episodes to call out would be the organization I just alluded to, ihollaback.org is an amazing organization that teaches people how to be bystander interveners, and when experiencing, witnessing harassment in all its forms. And the deputy director came on as a guest and actually talked about his incredibly powerful training to how do you become do bystander intervention for anti-Black racist violence or state-sponsored violence. Obviously, a lot of special considerations there. So that was one of the episodes. The following episode was focused on how we can support young people in this time who are, it's, more and more in the news right now, tragically, about the increase in teen suicides and the isolation, the not having contact with their normal life, going to school, etc. So there was an episode about the resources and ways that we parents or friends can be of support to young people. And the last episode of the season that I'm about to record in February is going to be with another trainer of Hollaback, who leads an amazing resilience training that they offered right after January 6th. And man, did I need it. And she's done amazing work in Rwanda. So we're going to do an episode about reparative practices and resilience. And I think that'll be the end of season 3.
Wow. What wonderful work you're doing. How helpful to people. There's a couple of questions and we're almost done. We are
yeah. Oh gosh.
Gone so fast. But one question is there a way to see the whole performance on Zoom yet? Or do you have to come back and do it for us?
I would love to do that. I've been thinking about, whether to adapt it for Zoom in full or not. I think I would need some kind of substantial place to then do it because of the amount of work. I do have a video of the performance I did at the festival, at the Heal Me Too Festival. So I also may instead decide to cut that as a video that can be shared as a virtual presentation.
Wow. So
and definitely visit Heal Me Too Fest or skintheplay.com and join my mailing list, and I will get on the mailing list and I can let you know when that's being shared virtually, hopefully.
Well, that is wonderful. And you all can look in the chat and you can see that there are some links. And these links will also go up on our website after the show is edited and put back up on the Solo Arts Heal website. So you'll be able to gather these links. So thank you so much, Hope. This has been wonderful.
Thank you.
So great to have you on Solo Arts Heal.
It's been wonderful. Thank you.
Thank you, everyone, for joining us. Thank you for everyone who's here live at MarshStream, who's watching us on YouTube. Consider making a tip in our tip jar. We are doing this for free, and we need your help and support. So support us with a tip. No donation is too big, none too small. Okay, Kristen.
Thank you, Stephanie. Thank you so much, Stephanie. And thank you so much to Hope Singsen for joining us this evening on Solo Arts Heal. Please join us the rest of the week on MarshStream. Tomorrow night, Stephanie Wiseman welcomes the cast of Divine Madness. Friday noon, we have fitnessing, followed by game night, and then the weekend, 2 performances of Divine Madness, Lynn Kaufman's new play. So we hope we'll see you then. And until next time, good night.
How do I describe my journey with
your mother, who takes care of you, who takes you to the doctor when you're sick? Your mother.
Good morning, New York. Buenos dias. It's me. What's up?
We went out for lunch at a sushi place where she tried sushi for the first time and she liked it.
I see that change can happen. I know things can shift and change for good.
I am dizzily dazzled with stars in my eyes.
Same level as I broke my neck. But he's not getting the same return of function I am.
And I don't want any of your smart aleck sex talk that I usually get when I get.
This is beyond the marsh because what you're doing is planting beautiful seeds for artists to grow.